Hi everyone, thank you for joining our latest webinar at Aventus. This one is in collaboration with Nuclei, which Matt can tell us a little bit about shortly. We're going to be talking about AI and Web3 today. AI is one of the other sexy new kids on the block in terms of emerging technology that lots of specifically enterprises are trying to integrate and incorporate into their business and technology stack, and there is some misconceptions we think around how blockchain and AI work together. So we're going to be addressing those today. I'm joined by Alan Vey, who is the founder and CEO of Aventus. For those that don't know Aventus, we are a blockchain for enterprise business. We make it really easy for big businesses across industries to adopt and integrate blockchain technology into their operations in ways that drive real value and try and take away a lot of the complexity associated with that. Matt, maybe you can do an intro of Nuclei because you know it much better than I do.
Thank you so much. Super excited to be here today. Yeah, I think it's an important topic that we're talking about today. So a little bit introduction about myself and Nuclei. I'm founder and CEO of Nuclei. I've been founder in Web3 since 2018, where I founded Nexera, of which Nuclei is a spin-off around 1.5 years ago. We spin off. And what Nuclei stands for is essentially making working with data as easy as possible. And that's a very broad and vague explanation, I guess. So at the core, what we do is create the query engine, which makes it really easy to talk to data in a unified way. And when I say data, it's mainly structured data, but from many different sources. And on top of that, we are creating a layer one infrastructure, so our own blockchain that has native mechanisms around reward distribution, monetization mechanisms, traceability, authenticity of certain streams of data, so that businesses can collaborate on data in a trustless manner. And then when it comes to AI, I think AI can really benefit from having trustless traceability mechanisms. So that's where, for us, blockchain and AI come together.
Amazing, thank you so much. So we've kind of touched on a few of the topics and applications that we're going to dive into a bit later on. But I'm very excited about today because both of you are, I would use the word experts in these two very complicated, advanced, cutting-edge technologies. So maybe 30 seconds to give each of you an intro about who you are and what your backgrounds in each of these technologies are. Alan, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, sure. Glad to be here today, and thanks to Matt for coming to have a chat as well. So my background, I'm a computer scientist by training. Did an undergrad in computer science. I then did a master's in artificial intelligence. So I guess that's my overlap in the space. This was at Imperial College in London, but back I graduated my master's in 2016. So LLMs didn't exist. We were still doing old school statistical machine learning. So a lot has evolved since. I've been in the Web3 space since then, founded Aventus right out of uni. And we've kind of been onboarding Web2 to Web3 since in the enterprise market. But I think like any new technologies, Web3 is AI is obviously the sexiest area of technology today, right? I think it's dominating all of the news headlines when you see the capabilities of the technology. I mean, when I finished my degree in 2016, people said something that could pass the Turing test that seemed like a human, that a human wouldn't be able to tell that it wasn't a human, was decades away. And here we are, a few years later, and we seemingly have already achieved this. So it's incredible the pace at which the AI industry is moving. Web3 is obviously at a bit more of a rocky history, especially because of the unregulated nature of financial markets and the ups and the downs and the various different regulatory bodies going this way, then that way. But I think we've also, as of the last year, seen Web3 finally come into its own and start seeing that emerging sort of growth. I think BlackRock's now one of the biggest Bitcoin holders, from JP Morgan saying they'd fire anybody who trades Bitcoin to now offering it as collateral. The world has really changed even from a Web3 perspective. So it's very exciting to see both industries in their own right. And then obviously, I guess the topic of today, how they can intersect. So it's awesome to see the work Matt's been doing at really bringing that about.
Awesome, thank you. Matt, so you gave us a great overview of Nuclei, but how about you? What's your background in each of these two industries, and how did you end up where you are today?
So I've always been a software developer. I've been a software developer since a very young age, like 11, 12 years old. I've been developing in many different industries with many different technologies, but I always came back to working with data, large amounts of data, business intelligence kind of things, financial, also in many different industries, but it was always something around complex topics around data. And naturally, there came use cases and projects around artificial intelligence. These were like customer support orientating solutions like email management, chatbots, stuff like that. That was also pre-LLM time. And but I knew like somewhere data is always underrated. It's boring. No one wants to deal with it. A lot of legacy systems. Every enterprise has tons of data, and there are always problems around it. So for me, it was always a topic back in my mind that I wanted to do something with in order to improve it. And then with generative AI introduced, I saw an opportunity to essentially kickstart it or accelerate it because the need for higher quality data with fair revenue mechanisms became more important than ever. Because of course Web3 had a lot of ups and downs indeed. Although you're right, man. When we speak to enterprises, when I was speaking to enterprises about Web3 in 2018. Like it was like a dirty word, right? You're like that guy, like they didn't want to talk to. And now in 2024, 25, conversations suddenly become much more serious. And but AI also had its dramas, right? Like around the usage of data, all the scrapes, New York Times suing OpenAI for illegally obtaining their millions of news articles for training ChatGPT. So, I mean, regulations, issues around data that deserve to be solved, and that's why I founded Nuclei. That's why I thrive in this environment.
Awesome, thank you for that overview. Okay, so let's get into the interesting stuff. So, by way of introducing what we're talking about today. We've touched on this a little bit, but just to give a brief intro. So AI and Web3 are often seen as competing technologies. Do we want to adopt this one? Do we want to adopt that one? But we would argue that the real opportunity lies in their convergence. So my two experts today, guided briefly by me, are going to explore how these technologies can enhance, not replace each other, to create smarter and more trustworthy systems, and how enterprise leaders are already harnessing AI and Web3 together to solve real world challenges. Because one thing that I think is really quite special and unique about both of the businesses that each of you founded is that you both focus on real world solutions and applications that solve real problems that businesses are having. I think one thing that Web3 technology has had a bit of a bad reputation for, other than the whole like crypto cowboy side of things, but we're not going to get into that today, is it's a technology that is a solution that's looking for a problem. Someone came up with this cool tech and now they're like, where can we shoehorn and force this into a business, and it ends up not really adding value. However, in the right context and in the right application, I think both of you have proven that Web3 can really add value and solve problems for businesses in the real world, which is quite exciting. So open question to the floor. Why is it that you think that people often see, based on your experience, AI and Web3 as competing or conflicting technologies?
I think in general there is a big lack of understanding of the potential of AI, and I think when I talk about Web3 for serious real world use cases, I see Web3 as an insurance policy. And insurance is boring, it is annoying, and it costs money, but it doesn't necessarily give you money. Like, it's a business model for DeFi, right? But if we look at an enterprise level, there's not really often a very clear business model. It's a way to avoid damages. It's a way to prove that something was done in a certain way, again, in order to avoid damages, right? And when we look at AI, there are actually much easier business models to be implemented or to be created. And I think when a lot of businesses or a lot of individuals look at blockchain as a potential money maker, it's often associated with how to earn money from a blockchain application or a blockchain protocol or whatever. And seeing purely blockchain as an insurance policy, then it's much easier to slot in AI, because where can AI go wrong, and how can we apply this insurance policy as a decentralized technology in order to make sure that AI doesn't go wrong, or that we at least have the traceability to see where it went wrong. And so from all the conversations I've had with enterprises, with businesses, is very often we want to do something with AI. We want to do something with Web3. And that something is the key word. They don't know exactly what they want to do. We want to do something with our data and AI. Okay, what do you want to do? Yeah, we're going to explore that. So it's the lack of deep understanding of the full potential, in my experience, that's leading to seeing this as two opposing elements.
Yeah, I can echo some of that from what I've seen in market as well, right? I think you typically, it's a nature of how these businesses are structured. You'll have a big enterprise, and the CEO will have to give their quarterly or whatever update to the board. And the board is a bunch of people who don't necessarily know what's going on with these technologies, but it's just like, ask the CEO, okay, so what's our Web3 strategy? What's our AI strategy? And now the CEO has to figure out an answer in that board meeting. At least this is what it was over the last few years, right? So they push it down to the innovation department, and they're like, do some proof of concepts and give me some food for the board to show this is how we've played around with this technologies. These are the major efficiency gains that we're seeing. So because they're two emerging technologies and there's not a lot of in-house expertise, you'll then see people running around to consultants or various other places to try and figure out, how do we even use these technologies? And I think when you look at AI, it's easier to understand the value add in like over a cup of coffee with your grandma, right? Like, you can show ChatGPT and anyone can be like, oh, wow, I can see how that can help, whether it's helping me build a shopping list or helping me look through all of my lawsuits. From one side to the end of the extreme of the spectrum, it's very easy to demo the value quickly. With blockchain and Web3 in general, I think that's a little harder. It's quite hard to sit there with your grandma and explain why a blockchain adds value somewhere. Kind of like Matt was saying, right? In some areas, it's an insurance policy. It's a protection layer. It's a way to gain better transparency and immutable record keeping. Of course, there's the whole crypto aspect, but then we're often talking about quite advanced or complex financial markets. Even launching a token is not a simple thing, not from a regulatory perspective, not from a technological perspective. So telling your grandma that there's some internet money that now has value sounds like a scam. Showing your grandma that you can type any question into this and it answers it better than Google used to is very quick and easy to understand. And I think that's why sometimes, both in terms of how the industry is structured and in how you can demo these products, why you start seeing this kind of friction in the way the markets have kind of rolled out.
I think also the success of blockchain applications lies in the fact that they are hidden from the eye, right? And that makes it even worse, because if it's most successful, you don't necessarily even know or understand what's the underlying technology, which is not so, like 99% of the cases in the industry is absolutely not the case. So and with AI, it's much more apparent that it's much more in your face. It's also end user focused when we talk about generative AI, right? The Grandma is an excellent example, because everyone can literally use it. And with blockchain technology, it's not the case.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. For someone that has a quite limited tech understanding, especially compared to you two, I find as an end user AI a lot easier to wrap my head around than blockchain. If I wasn't in the blockchain space professionally, I think it's quite a complex and a nuanced thing to understand. So we've kind of moved into the next part of the conversation, which is where each of the technologies can actually complement each other. So obviously, if we're looking at it from a business and an enterprise perspective, I think another of the biggest challenges that we haven't touched on so much so far is that there is a limited budget for R&D and for emerging technologies, and often people feel like they have to pick something, and they're typically going to pick the thing that is easier for them to understand. But if we're gonna take the stance that AI can enhance blockchain and businesses and vice versa, how does that actually play out? How does AI complement blockchain solutions specifically for enterprise, and how does blockchain complement AI solutions? And I know this might be a difficult question, because there are so many ways that each of those technologies can be applied in businesses, but maybe some specific examples come to mind.
Yeah, sure. Go for it, Matt.
Go ahead, Matt. Go ahead.
Okay, thanks, man. From my perspective, maybe we just jump into some examples, right? Rather than staying at an abstract level. So if we look at how AI can benefit blockchain, it's so vast. Blockchain is creating big data sets of transaction records. There's a lot of fraud. There's a lot of dubious activity that has historically happened on blockchains. There's a lot of, if you're considering from a financial or token perspective, audit-related stuff to do. So that kind of structured data across different ecosystems, AI is obviously incredible at identifying patterns, looking in great depth into what's going on here, trying to generate actionable insight out of these data sets. So just given the nature of blockchain and the fact that most of it is public and transparent, there's an amazing data set to work with there. And there's all kinds of things that can be done, whether it's financial modeling for the success of future projects, or market conditions, or identifying fraud, or anything like that. I think there's all kinds of great ways AI can benefit Web3. If we look at it the other way around, how can Web3 benefit AI? I think, again, when you look at, let's talk generative AI, right? So when you look at LLMs and you look at what these models have been trained on, I don't think there's necessarily, by design in many cases, a proper audit trail of what has gone into that model and what were the rights around that data that went into that model. So keeping kind of an audit trail of the data you've trained on, the rights associated with that data, and even potentially compensation to the parties who that data belongs to. I think that's an area where we could see great value from Web3 for the AI space. But those are just a few off the top of my head. I'm sure Matt's got many better ones.
No, I mean, actually, I could have said it better. These were excellent examples. I think traceability and authenticity of data, and fair, I always call it fair reward or revenue mechanisms around data, but it's essentially, if a new model is being created and is being trained on news articles of the New York Times, it should be possible that the New York Times is going to sell that data to the model creator. And if we talk about millions and millions of data sets, millions of different websites that need to be scraped, then these reward mechanisms through a single point in a decentralized way actually starts to make a lot of sense, because you don't want this data to be handled by a single entity, right? So this is actually a very important one for us, and it's also around, there's a lot of embeddings for LLMs, so they can talk to current data, right? And an LLM has largely a problem that is trained to be an excellent conversation partner, meaning that if you ask about factual information, you have a high risk of hallucinations, right? If you ask it for the price of Bitcoin today, it will largely hallucinate something. Some smarter LLMs might do a web search and find the right data, but generally speaking, they will not be able to give you a factual answer, especially for real-time data. So if we add components to generative AI to have access to that real-time data, it would be good, especially in agentic systems where there is automation between different AI agents that do work in order to come to results. You want to have traceability of the steps that they did in between. What data source did they use? How did they query it? What did they get in return? How did they use that? And for use cases that really matter around large sums of money or impactful use cases, it's important to have these things in an immutable way on chain. And I think also one that for me is really important is the fact that with decentralization, we've seen an emergence of a lot of networks that are around distributed GPU power, and they make it much easier for indie developers, so developers with a low budget, to start working on creating new AI models and training them without needing as much money as they would on AWS or directly with NVIDIA maybe. So it helps create new open source models. It helps innovation just by having access to these distributed compute networks that rely on blockchain networks.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, there were a couple of use cases that I wanted to dive into, specifically centralized data systems, and also when with businesses increasingly using AI not just for providing information, but for helping expedite or make more efficient actually the process of making decisions. I think businesses are increasingly currently for low-level decisions, I think it's going to increase using AI to perform and execute tasks, including ultimately making decisions that humans previously would have. And if you've got an AI that hallucinates, then you are creating cumulative problems. So yeah, I mean, you guys touched on all the use cases that I personally found most interesting when I was researching for this talk. So yeah, thank you for
recently I learned something around I don't remember if someone told me this or I read it somewhere, but it actually makes a lot of sense. So it's not fact checked, but something to think about. If we would stop any development in AI today, and we will not have any new innovations there, it would still probably take around 10 years for all businesses globally to catch up. And it makes sense, right? There is still so much untapped potential with where we are with AI today. Imagine where we are 1 year from now and how much further this 10 years will stretch, right? And I think that also, I believe that many of these use cases that we dream of when it comes to automated tasks, automated, autonomous decision making from AI agents, it's already possible. I work with it from a day-to-day basis with the integration of our technology. It's insane how far along generative AI already is, and how and it's baffling still how little understanding most businesses and individuals actually have of it. With tool calling and AI agents that can speak to other AI agents, the potential is absolutely massive, which is super exciting, but also really scary.
Yeah, and this is, sorry, go for Anna.
Yeah, and to these points, right? Like, one, how long it's going to take even for today's AI to get adopted. Two, the rate of change. But to be very clear, where we are today is, you were talking there earlier about like senior decision making being replaced, right? Where we are today, and this kind of dovetails on what Matt was saying before, you still always need human oversight because of the degree of, I mean, humans can make mistakes, but these hallucinations are AI mistakes, basically, right? And when you get to really detailed tasks with subject domain expertise that rely on real-time data in a high-pressured environment, and you've got to make a quick decision, we're still not in a world where this technology can do that well. And the problem with that is sometimes people will try out the technology, say, oh, it didn't answer something as simple as what's the price of Bitcoin today correctly. The technology is not that great, it's not there yet. But it's understanding where it really has its benefits today. And there are so many areas, and people are obviously starting to see that. But then never mind where it's going to go, and making sure that people don't apply things to the wrong space. That's just something we've seen in the blockchain world. So hopefully something we don't see in the world of AI, right? Where blockchain was used in areas that didn't add value. And hopefully we don't see those kind of cases. It doesn't seem likely, but it's going to be very interesting to see how the next 5-10 years evolve with adoption, how quickly things can adopt, and how much faster the kind of progress will outpace that.
That's actually a very, very good thing that you said. One thing that works against Web3 when it comes to the convergence with AI is the fact that we had kind of AI season in Web3 where there was a massive influx of AI projects that were doing something around Web3 that added zero value. Like you said, something that we see very often in Web3. And people started to lose hope because of that, because there was so much trash out there that the convergence between AI and Web3 is even possible at all, because people just started to create a wrapper around an LLM and put a token around it, and that's it, right? While the potential is much further than that. And I think that untapped potential still needs a bit of time.
So interesting for me to just listen to you two speak. And so I guess this conversation is kind of coming full circle for me, because Alan, what you were saying about incorrect usage, or people who don't really understand how to use or apply AI, and that can cause issues. And then talking about blockchain, Web3, and the use cases that don't really add value. Ironically, it feels to me like this incorrect or a non-expert usage of AI is a place where blockchain or Web3 technology really can add value, because of what you were talking about, Matt, earlier, of blockchain being this kind of insurance policy and ensuring transparency and provenance. It feels like Web3 technology emerges as this really important check and balance against non-expert or incorrect or misuse of AI.
100%. Blockchain is definitely maturing. Web3 is maturing as an industry. But unfortunately, and the same in AI, by the way, and many other industries, there is a lot of noise. And I think in Web3 especially more so. There's a ton of noise coming from projects, innovations that aren't actually innovations, that distract from the real value that's being created today by real innovators. And it's very hard because of all that trash to see, where is the actual value being built. And essentially in Web3, there's a lot of projects that get a lot of eyes on them because they spend a lot of money on marketing, but they don't actually have underlying interesting technology. And whereas the serious builders don't necessarily care about that marketing too much, but don't get the eyes on them, which is an unfair distribution very often that we see. But in AI, there's a lot of a lot of drama around these things as well, right? Not as much as Web3, but models that are being created that are not truthful. And recently we saw in the news that there was this AI company that turned out that they had 700 Indian people working for them instead of having an actual working model. So this is the problem that both industry faces, where we still have a lot to do.
Like any hype cycle, right? If there's a lot of money flowing into an area, there will be somebody trying to scam and get their hands on that money, even if they can't show the goods. So to your point, Ellie, like if you're trying to scam someone, even with Web3 and AI, you can still scam them, right? Like it's not going to hold them to account. But ultimately, I guess the best indicators in any market are just the old school principles of due diligence. Has somebody been around for a while? Can you see the faces of the people? Are they out there? Do people know them? Can they get to them? The kind of as advanced as technology becomes, we still fall back on the old school ways of vetting things, of like, friends of friends. Does somebody know them? Can somebody that I trust actually tell me that these people check out? Or can I build a chain of trust? Somebody I trust who trusts somebody who trusts somebody knows them. And that way we know it's actually legit. So it's quite funny how the world ends up working. You do all this cutting edge technology just to fall back on old school human network principles for validating and doing your diligence.
Have you noticed in Web3 that business development within the Web3 industry is almost 100% based on knowing someone that knows someone that knows someone, where as in traditional industries, it's much more cold calling, cold email, cold LinkedIn, invite based, and it works, right? There are no trust issues. You come from a certain industry, I come from a certain industry. You reach out to me, you probably have good intentions. Whereas in Web3, everyone that reaches out to me that I don't know, they have bad intentions. Like immediately, I think that, right? And that's a completely different way of working.
It's so true. It's funny how the fundamental technology that enables trust has this historic reputation of actually breaking it. But that's why it's nice to see industries evolved. When you get the consumer protections, you have a few crypto winters to kind of clear out the hype no substance projects, and you get proper regulation to ensure that everybody's kind of sticking to the rule book. Slowly but surely you see a positive evolution. But I'm still, if someone hits me up on Telegram the first time, unlikely I'm responding.
Exactly, same. Yeah.
On that very serious note, as two people who are very much on the cutting edge of technology, I think both of you probably know about things that are happening and evolving in the new tech space as a whole, far before the vast majority of the population. What excites you most about this space, whether it's specific to blockchain or AI or a combination of both being applied?
So when I think back to roughly 7 years ago, I was talking with somebody about the future of AI. We were talking about neural networks, all the complicated stuff that maybe one day could contribute to something magnificent that's so intelligent that we could use it in ways that we can't comprehend. And today we are there. Like from that discussion, what we've discussed back then, that's where we are today. And I couldn't even imagine that back then we would achieve it. You said the same thing, Alan, basically earlier. And this already is like sometimes so insane to me when I discover new ways and new potential of existing generative AI systems and solutions that we already have. And I think there's still so many untapped things. So I'm every week I'm excited for new discoveries, new updates, new models that come out that require less resources, that are open source, new innovations and new protocols and industry standards and stuff like that. So I'm already living in that time, which is normally what I look forward to, what I would be excited about. I feel like I'm living in it already. It's maybe a stupid answer, but that's how I see it right now.
I couldn't agree more. Like, it feels like we're living in the future, the like sci-fi future that you never thought you would be living in, right? So to answer your question, Ellie, I think it's similar to Matt, that it's the speed of progress, right? The rate of change is far outpacing our most intelligent people's estimations. So with that, when you have a new technology and so much kind of blank canvas, the unknown unknowns become huge. Until a few years ago, we were pretty sure of where everything was going. Now, who knows? The careers are going to look completely different. Education is going to look completely different. The intelligence, the probably most valuable thing of the human species that led us to be the dominant species in the world was our intelligence, right? We're not stronger, we're not more resistant than many other animals. We were more intelligent, and we were able to build on that. The fact that intelligence is now no longer at a premium, it's becoming ubiquitous. Anybody who can operate a computer can achieve and access the highest intelligence. What does that mean for where the world goes? I don't think anybody can know, right? When you first got the internet and somebody sent information from one military base to another military base, do you think they foresaw, TikTok dances and a whole culture of like engagement online? I don't think so. And it's that same thing. Who knows where this goes? It's scary, but it's exciting at the same time.
Very well said. Very well said.
Thank you both for your very insightful contributions to today's conversation. I found it really interesting. Hopefully others who listen to this will do as well. And thank you both for taking time out of your busy days and schedules to chat to me. And thanks to anyone who listens to this, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was super exciting. Love the conversation. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Ellie.
Bye.